Oh my god, we're only 2 days away or 48 hours from the Switch 2 blowout at this point, which is freaking crazy. We're so close. But this time I want to take a little bit of a different angle. I want to cover not just our hopes, our greatest hopes for the Switch 2, but also our greatest fears, in which I think I think the way we're presenting most of these at least, is that they're all intertwined. It's like two sides of the same coin. This is what I'm excited for, but I'm concerned it could also be this. So that's what we're going to be covering today, everyone, as we continue our daily countdown series, in which, again, I think I forget if I said it already, we cover a different topic every day, and we will have one more tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. For now, though, I want to get to our greatest hopes and fears for what could happen on April 2nd or even beyond for the Switch 2. Nick, give us one of your greatest hopes or greatest fears. Or
all right, so my greatest hopes, which we will tie into a fear, is that I hope that Nintendo's able to recreate 2017 in the year 2025. The year 2017 for the Switch and even the 3DS was absolutely bonkers. We had a game basically every single month, from a brand new title in the series to like a port from a previous console, and it just kept coming and coming. It was almost overwhelming. Like, I would be like, oh, let me go pick up Splatoon, and then maybe a few weeks later it was ARMS, or other way around, and then it's like, oh, here's Mario and Rabbids, oh, here's a Fire Emblem Warriors. The games just kept coming for that year.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. That was actually one I had on my list. Like, that first year was insane. And, you know, even for me, like, just taking Breath of the Wild and the new 3D Mario at the time, Odyssey, that alone was a stellar year. But on top of that, yeah, you had Splatoon, you had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and other games as well. Like, it was a crazy freaking year. And if they can match that somehow, that'd be amazing. But did you give your fear?
No, so my fear with that is that it doesn't really line up like 2017. I mean, we already know two Switch games coming out this year, Switch 1 games, which is Metroid Prime 4 and then Pokemon ZA. So that's already in the mix. And then, like I said, maybe we just get a Mario Kart, and maybe there's like one or two other games this year for Switch 2, because we've seen development for games take a lot longer over the years. Granted, Nintendo's a lot better at developing games timeline-wise compared to someone like PlayStation, Sony, or Microsoft. But that is a fear that we only get maybe two Switch 2 games for the year, and we're still playing Switch 1 games on top of this year. So again, like, I hope they recreate 2017's magic all over again.
You're just concerned that they won't.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna say you're concerned for your wallet.
Right? Like 2017, yeah, it was just like, oh, here's a $60 game, $60 game, $60 game. It was
only $60. I think you're being optimistic there.
Well, I'm saying 2017 was 60.
I got it, yeah.
This year, yeah, it's probably going to be $70. Here's Mario Kart, $70. Boom, yeah.
I'll say that highly possible. I think Nintendo has had a lot of their big, important development studios working on games for the year. The main difference is that we won't have that Breath of the Wild Zelda. Like, to have a year with Mario Kart and possibly a new 3D Mario, like, we don't know yet, but to have those two already, like, amazing year, it just won't be quite the same without Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, that's a great point. We almost know for a fact there won't be a 3D Zelda here, barring somehow major shakeup or surprise. And yeah, it seems like on that alone, it may be difficult for this first year to match the Switches, which was amazing, and had the benefit of taking a game that was practically finished for the previous generation and putting it onto the newer generation. And as far as we know, they don't have it this time, unless Metroid Prime 4, ends up bidding that slot. But even, I will say, I like what we've seen in Metroid Prime 4, but even that, isn't like Breath of the Wild new, right? So maybe it is. We just don't know. Maybe we haven't seen enough of it yet. But in any case, Tom, what's your greatest hope and fear? Or a greatest hope and fear?
Okay, my greatest hope and my greatest fear. My greatest hope is that the Switch 2 does extremely well and continues the success of the Switch 1. Now, what is the fear from that? The fear is any console manufacturer that does well for too long gets too high and mighty.
Yep.
And rides on his horses and immediately starts doing bad things for consumers and is surpassed by another console. That is my only concern with that. I wish Nintendo all the success of Switch 2, but it's worrisome if they stay up high for too long.
No, that's a great point, I think, actually. And I think, we've seen Nintendo kind of get arrogant, almost, you could say.
Arrogant.
It's not,
yeah.
it's not exclusive to Nintendo. We've seen this with, Sony as well, Then, there's always like a counterbalance, right? Like, someone slips and someone else takes a lead for that generation oftentimes. And even Nintendo, the thing is, they have a history, too. I've talked about this before, so I don't want to bore people too much. But, like, they have never had an exception to the rule where every successor system sells worse than the previous one. The only exceptions, is when they completely shift gears and do something entirely different, as with the Wii and the Switch. And the Switch is basically a merger of their two system lines, being the handheld and the console. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle to fight that, because the Switch is such a massive success. Inherently, the Switch 2 almost has to sell less than that, but I'd be happy to be wrong.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Sony with PlayStation, the PS1, PS2, they were riding high, and then PS3 is like, wait a minute, this is way too much. The pricing, the games, the architecture, like everything for it was just all over the place. And then we saw them come back at the end with PS3 to PS4, and then PS5. I mean, personally, I'm just like, where are the games? They were riding the high on the PS4. So yeah,
Right.
We could easily see Nintendo be a little arrogant and then just keep riding the success and not really doing much to kind of change their ways or keep up with the competition. But yeah, I hope that's not the case. I hope they're able to keep things moving from Switch 1 to 2.
I am too, and just to add to that concern real quick, not to make this one too much of a bummer, but this will be the first truly new console from Nintendo where Iwata had no involvement at all. Obviously, he unfortunately passed before the Switch, released, but he was heavily involved in its, in the development of it, and I imagine as well the games to an extent, those early games at least. All right, moving on though. Honestly, one of my biggest hope, and it's actually not even really a hope, it's just excitement for the mouse feature. Like, I am so excited to see that mouse feature at work, because it's probably partially because it's the only truly new thing we know about the Switch 2 so far. Everything else is just like an evolution of what's there that, again, we know of. But the mouse is actually something truly new, especially as a primary input device for a console. Obviously, it's old hat for PC gamers, but we've never had this on a console before where it just supports it out of the box. And that's going to be a total game changer, I hope. My concern is that no one uses it. Like a handful of games at launch will take advantage of it, and then that it just falls by the wayside because, I imagine a lot of people at least play console games partially because you're holding a controller, and do they even want to use a mouse? And that ends up being the case, including possibly for myself. I don't even know how I'm going to feel, right? But even though I'm excited for it, and it could lead to a future in which fewer and fewer games support this awesome new idea, and it may just end up underwhelming.
Yeah, that is a major concern, right? Like, this sounds like such a cool feature because we've never seen it on a console baked in day one. So, like, I hope it's not just, oh, here's a few first-party games coming out in 2025 that feature it, or here's some ports from third parties that require it. I hope they really find a middle ground or a balance where we're still getting games in, 2030? I know that's crazy to say, but, 2030 that utilize this mouse feature like they intended in day one.
Right.
Yeah, the only weird thing about the mouse is that so many kids are so used to touchscreens. It's like going backwards in a way for them. So I hope that part works out. I know for me, a mouse is fine. But yeah, is it going to be just a short-lived gimmick in a couple games? Like everybody 1-2 mouse? I don't know. Like
I'm already picturing like an adorable little mouse mascot, Like, actually, if you look at the Luigi's Mansion mice, the ones from the first one, they almost had that computer mouse-like look.
Yeah.
Like they're, like, and actually, an even better example would be Astrobot. They have straight-up mice that have, I think, little, the buttons or ears, maybe, if I remember correctly. So you can totally come up with an adorable mouse icon for this feature.
Andre, I got some bad news for you.
Oh, God. Oh,
You might know this, but Astrobot, even though it has all those mechanics from Mario, it's not actually a Nintendo game. I'm sorry.
Wow.
Sony game.
That hurts, Tom, man. Why do you have to break it to me like this as we're recording? The nerve. All right. Well, that was my greatest hope and fear, or one of them. So, Nick, let's go on to your next one.
Yeah, so my greatest hope for the Switch 2, another one, is that I hope we get more original IPs from Nintendo. Because if you look at the list of IPs, at least newer IPs on the Switch, I can probably name them on one hand. It's like, what? You have everybody, you have 1-2 Switch, you have ARMS, you have Astral Chain, you have Labo, if you want to count that, but I don't think they took too many risks with new IPs for the Switch. So I really hope that if they're not gonna like rejuvenate or bring back a lot of these dead IPs that we personally love, I hope they actually bring new ideas to the table and bring new characters and new IPs.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think the Switch was a little lacking on that front. It kind of made up for it with some of the weirder projects you mentioned, like Labo, which I actually really enjoyed, especially Labo VR. That game is a total blast. But I agree with you. So I want either like brand new IP, new ideas, new characters, or reimagining old IPs in a new way that is basically effectively new at the same time.
They're gonna bring back Duck Hunt, but instead of like shooting, you're gonna use the mouse in some way.
Oh my
like
god,
the dog's
yes!
retired or something, and he doesn't hunt anymore. Maybe it's a farm sim or something.
That was, I'm down. I don't care what it is. I'm down for a new Duck Hunt in whatever form it takes. So
they're gonna bring back Devil World and use to the mouse and just rotate left and right for the screen scrolling.
Yeah, I would love if Nintendo actually made like a horror game at like Duck Hunt, where like you're like 10 ducks trying to run away from like the evil farmer coming for you.
Duck Hunt 99. Everyone's a duck.
There we go.
One guy is shooting.
God, that'd be so fun. Like you're just like hiding around like obstacles. It's like Dead by Daylight, but with ducks and one hunter. 99 ducks and one
dog
hunter.
Coming out of nowhere.
Oh my god, yes! He'd be like the AI companion, right? And like the farmer or whatever, the shooter, the gunner, can like give directions to the dog. I need this game now. Oh my goodness, that'd be so great. All right, Tom, which one of your greatest hopes and fears? Another one.
All right. Let's see. I'll start with a fear and then a hope. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, going reverse.
My greatest fear is American tariffs. What am I getting?
That's a big one.
Here?
Yes.
Well, basically, I'm worried that the price of the Switch 2 is kind of out of Nintendo's hands, and that it's going to factor in. Now, that's not the true greatest fear, though. My fear is that part of it too is that the game prices will be separate, and we might see the death of physical media this generation. I think a lot of people kind of want a copy of a game to hold. We know how Nintendo and their online stores sometimes just shut them down. Like they'll probably keep it up longer with Switch, but that's something I'm worried about. But to put the bright side on it, I'm going to say the hope is that Nintendo's already prepared for this by, as reading, they don't just manufacture from China. They moved it to Vietnam the last time around. This was a worry, and that it won't actually be a problem. But that's kind of my worry. Like, I think some people should have physical games. Like, I mostly use digital, but for key ones, I do have physical games. That just personally, I kind of ran out of space at one point. But I think people should have that option to preserve their games in the future.
Yeah, and Tom, like you said, I mean, this could be the generation for Nintendo that we do see them cut out the physical sales, especially with that most recent presentation. And they're like, oh, this is how you share digital games. Like, they told us how to share digital games. But I think there was like a sales number somewhere in Europe that was saying like a large portion of people still buy physical Switch games. I think it's larger than digital game sales over in Europe, because people just like to have that physical thing to give to someone as an actual birthday gift. But yeah, if the pricing does come into effect and they do have to cut something out, I could see the fear of these physical games going away.
Yeah, that's it. Those are all great points, Tom, and yeah, especially as Nick mentioned with the Nintendo's poor explanation of the virtual game card feature, which is both a step in the right direction, but also doesn't go nearly far enough because they're still limiting so much of what you can do with it compared to physical games.
Can't even taste them.
That's a great point. You can't taste the virtual game cards. What is this nonsense?
What is the taste of a Switch 2 cart? Rapid fire question. Go.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, I've never tasted one, so I have to wait
the
to
Switch 2.
How disgusting would it be if they had at these Switch 2 events, they have like a single taste, a single card everyone can taste.
Like how E3 has like a
wipe it
food
down.
stand for specific games or something. They have the Switch 2 like taste experience. You just walk over. Oh, banana flavored.
Yeah, and then
Still
the
gross.
Lieutenant Rap goes, hold on, wait, before you go up there, let me wipe that down for you. And then they go up there and they lick it clean.
They just wipe their tongue between sessions, between cleaning sessions. Oh my god, this is gross. Alright, we're gonna move on to another one of my hopes and fears. So this, for me, this applies to a particular game. I love the Mario Kart series. Even the lesser ones, I still have a great time with. But my concern, for as excited as I am for the new Mario Kart, my concern is that it won't be different enough. That's my fear. That it won't, because when we first saw the reveal trailer, I legitimately, for like a split second, like, is that just more Mario Kart Deluxe? Like, is that just like a new course we're adding to the game? But it looks so similar to Mario Kart Deluxe on the surface. Now, obviously, there seems to be a little bit more going on. I did a whole analysis about, you know, the potential of what could be different, but that's not set in stone. You know, I have a theory about the gas station, and I could be off base. That may not be happening. And my concern is that it's going to be too similar to a game we've already been playing for over 10 freaking years.
Yeah, and like Andre, like you said, like maybe they don't take too much of a risk. And the thing is, like Mario Kart, like we're gonna buy Mario Kart day one. That's not the concern for Nintendo. They want to sell it to 60 million other users. So there needs to be 60 million other Andres, Toms, and Nicks out there ready to buy this game. And that's the thing. Like if I showed this to a family member that just plays Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and they say like, "Oh, that looks cool. Is that a new track or is that a new character?" What's going to be the reason to buy the next Mario Kart? There really needs to be a punch in that next trailer that we see from it.
A punch. That'd be a good mechanic to have. Go figure.
Like a double dash?
Mario Kart has that. Yeah.
Such a good feature.
No, it's like, I see you're throwing a little gas on this fire, but...
What if that actually was like a new power-up, like Molotov cocktails? Just chuck them at people. You could craft now in your cart.
You could... The fireballs on gas tanks.
You just blow up a gas station when someone's fueling up.
Every Mario Kart match just evolves into the track like completely on fire. That's how it changes every lap. It's just more and more on fire.
In this giant open world, doesn't matter how far away you are, you'll see the explosion of the gas station from miles away.
The toads like running,
flying through the air.
Jeez, that's grim. But
you know, I'm no longer fearful. This game's gonna be amazing.
It's like GTA from Mario Kart. There we go. No, there's got to be some gimmick you can put with it.
Yeah.
Like, it won't be the double dash feature that we want, unfortunately, unless they have magic pixie dust over there. But I don't know, more racers. They could be using F-Zero 99 as a testing ground to see what happens if you give people like more boost in the background or different routes that open up to bring them in. I think we'll just see a lot more variety. Maybe like more tracks with like different options, building on different race routes each lap. I think it's gonna make up for it, and I just hope the handling is slightly different. Dear God, make the handling different. I don't want to do the same thing again.
Yeah, and Andre, we recently played, what was it, like a month ago? We played the beta for Sonic Team Racing, or Sonic, what's the new game? Why can't I think of it?
Sonic Racing Crossworlds?
Crossworlds, yeah, Sonic Racing Crossworlds. And there's so much in that game compared to the previous Sonic Racing games, it almost feels like a best of. So the thing is, like, that is probably coming out this year. It's going up against Mario Kart, but I think more people are just going to go towards Mario Kart just because it's the name, Mario Kart, right? Like, even though this could be the better game with all these crazy features, I hope Nintendo takes a risk like Sega's doing with Sonic Crossworlds.
Right. Yeah, I fully agree.
Yeah, like, are they having the same marketing firm telling them, like, this is the year to make a 4-player platformer, this is the year to make a racing game?
Yeah, right.
I think, Nick, though, you said day one, Nintendo probably will hold it back a bit, I'm guessing, and have other, like, 2 weeks, a month, and have, like, some other title launch you have to buy. Potentially. That's something they've done in the past.
Oh, so
you think video talk... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
You think they're going to do it like they did for Switch, where Zelda was day one, and then what was it, like a month or two later was Mario Kart?
That's a possibility if they figure their other games, like, need a little boost at first.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting idea. I mean, I had a whole video about why I thought Mario Kart could be day one, but it is you know, I have been saying that, or it has seemed that Nintendo's been emulating the Switch, you know, release as closely as possible. And having Mario Kart there a few months after worked out once before, maybe that would be the smart play again. So you could be right, Tom, in which case I would open the door to, you know, another big game at launch, right?
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Well, I hope for another big game at launch, but this is not what I hope. This is just a possibility. I hope you are right, and that what I am saying does not happen for consumers.
Yeah, well, I hope I'm right if Mario Kart is truly amazing. If it underwhelms as I'm fearful of, then maybe I don't want to ride a launch, you know? So, I don't know. We'll see. I guess I do hope, though. I hope that there is a central new, like, gimmick or mechanic, if you will, that makes it obvious. Like, okay, I get it now. It's not the 24 racers. That's my hope. Okay, that was my idea. Nick, what is your next fear or hope and fear?
So this one's more so a fear, which we could probably turn it into a hope, but My fear is that Nintendo doesn't know when to cut. Oh god, Nintendo doesn't know when to cut the support for the Switch 1. Because we can look back at 2017, 2018, 2019, when the 3DS was still running alongside parallel with the Switch, and we saw games in directs where it's like, oh, here's a new Mario Party. It's like, great, when's it coming to Switch? It's like, oh, no, that's 3DS only. Like, what? But that doesn't make any sense. So I hope that they find a middle ground of like, oh, here are games that are coming out for Switch 1 that don't need the power of Switch 2. And we did see that in the recent direct, right? Like, we saw Tomodachi Life and Rhythm Heaven, which are like, great, those are great for Switch 1, but I don't want to see the next F-Zero or the next mainline Zelda tied down to the Switch 1 when I could be like, wait a minute, this game would run and look so much better on the Switch 2.
Could you imagine that quote clipped poorly? I can't, it's like, I don't want to see the next F-Zero, and it's just like, cut.
Don't take this out of context. We want an F-Zero. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I'm not as fearful of that. Well, I guess a couple reasons. One, I do think it would be good if they continue to support the Switch. I mean, not just in a business sense, but also for every consumer out there who has one and won't be upgrading immediately. But I do get your concern that, we don't want, big new games being held back by previous hardware at the same time. I think what little we've seen so far of them announcing 2 Switch games moving into the Switch 2 era, being Rhythm Heaven and Tomodachi Life, like, that's perfect. Like, neither of those need the power of the Switch 2. They arguably don't need the power of the Switch, and they'll look fine no matter what, and the power will be wasted on those games. So making those cross-gen compatible makes a lot of sense. And I think that might make sense even for a few other bigger Nintendo IPs too, like Mario Party. I don't know if that needs Switch 2 graphics, for instance. But then, like Mario Kart, yeah, I wanted it to look better, or the 3D Mario, Zeldas, obviously. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point. Obviously, it would be bad if every game is Switch 1 only, which I don't think it would be, hence why we only saw 2 in this current Nintendo Direct. But, who knows what the future holds, especially if, if the Switch 2 somehow underperforms out of the gate, Nintendo might continue to support the existing Switch for a bit longer, perhaps, so...
Well, we've seen how long PlayStation has dragged out the PlayStation 4 era. Like, it all really depends on how well the Switch 2 does, and pushing developers, pushing their own internal teams to jump to Switch 2 only. Yeah. And, like, I think, like, as long as people are buying Switch 1 games, we will still get Just Dance on original Wii. So, I mean, it's all... It all just depends what makes sense. I love the idea, though, for experimental games, ones that traditionally would come out on like Game Boy, coming out on Switch 1.
Right.
But I want to just sort of piggyback on Nick's point here for one of my hopes and fears.
All right, go for it.
So, I hope Nintendo keeps experimenting, but I fear Nintendo cannot support 2 consoles at once. Nintendo in the past has been kind of bad at supporting 2 consoles at the same time. I worry that the Switch 1 and Switch 2 era, even though it makes sense, like it's backwards compatible, you can play both at once, that it might distract them in some way, and they end up kind of only like focusing well on one and kind of do a half-assed effort on the other. Kind of like with the DS and like Wii era, like it was only ever feeling like they were doing well on one at a time and shifting gears accordingly. I hope that they have enough teams now and enough sort of support teams that they've proven they can make 1 game a month. That's like why Switch did so well. There's only one system. You only had to do that. Look at what happened to mobile there. Kind of just petered out, right? Because Switch is doing well. I hope they've got enough figured out where it makes sense for them with a Switch 2 game and then like a Switch 1 game, just filling in the gaps that way. Like, let's say... Famicom Detective Club, make another one. Like, that's a Switch 1 game, works on both. I hope that is not a problem in the Switch 2 generation.
Yeah, I think they're going to be able to juggle these out pretty well because, again, like when we look at them handling 2 systems side by side in separate generations, they would have to develop games on a completely different level, right? Like if you're developing a Wii game, it's going to look and feel and play completely different from a DS game.
Right.
I think besides like graphical power and like horsepower and whatnot, I think the only major difference is really going to be maybe that mouse feature that they're going to try to implement between the 2 versions. But yeah, I can definitely see a concern of them not being able to balance it out in some way. But I do have a little bit of hope going into the Switch 2.
Yeah, it's different than before. It's just a bit of history I wanted to bring up.
No, that's absolutely fair. All right, speaking of history, which could apply to any of these topics, but I'll use that for a segue here. Here's my next greatest hope and fear. Actually, this might be my greatest hope and fear of them all. I love nothing more than 3D Marios. They're absolutely my favorite game series of all time. Even if I don't love like everyone to the same level, like generally they're pretty good. So I am extremely hopeful that the next game's gonna blow me away. But my biggest fear is, what if it doesn't? What if it's another 3D World? I know a lot of people love 3D World. I didn't love it. And even if I still did love it, I think most people would agree that it doesn't hit on the same level as... It wasn't revolutionary or innovative like the other 3D Marios. You know, like 64, Galaxy, Odyssey, and even to a lesser extent, I think, would be Sunshine, you know? And I need it to deliver. If the next 3D Mario is a miss, that is honestly going to like affect my perception of the entire system's generation. Like, that's what I care about the most. And if they screw up 3D Mario, that's really going to hurt.
Yeah, this is a major concern, right? Because, I mean, if we look back at Galaxy 2 to 3D Land, it's like, okay, this is cool, right? Because we're playing a 3D Mario, technically a 3D Mario on a platform or on a handheld. So this is great. But going from that to 3D World was a bit underwhelming, right? Because it's like, wait a minute, we waited all this time to get a console experience of a 3D mainline Mario game. And this is what they kind of led up to, was a sequel to 3D Land. So to have it be underwhelming after Odyssey, like, this could set the pace for all of Switch going forward, because Mario is Nintendo's mascot. This is what they should be focusing on, like, tenfold. Like, this is the game that should go big or go home.
I mean, flagpole.
Or, yeah, big or go to the flagpole.
Yeah, it's like, could you imagine if the Mario game doesn't come out in the first year? Like, yeah, I need it the first year, and I need it to deliver. I don't want like some bad Mario game, or like the promise of Bowser's Fury is so great to build from there in Odyssey. Like, it's just such high hopes. It would be a downer for something else. Like, who knows? Maybe they try for some new mechanic that's totally different, and it just misses the mark for us. Like, maybe they go. Like, whenever I ask any of my nephews or like friends' kids, what game do you play? And it's like Minecraft. Yeah. Like, if they go some route like that, they'd be like, well, I guess it's like it makes sense, but that's not Mario to me. Like, I could see something like that. Like, there's a world where that might happen. I would think it's in a different IP, but they do put Mario on everything. So,
thinking back, I think the lack of Mario, of a true 3D Mario on Wii U, was a big reason both for me not being that excited for the system at launch, despite me being excited for the idea of Wii U. Like, the launch was like, whatever. It's like, there's nothing here I really want to play, because New Super Mario Bros. Wii U just didn't do it. And then having that being followed by another, by an underwhelming 3D Mario, it's like, the thing I play Nintendo games for the most is completely missed the mark for me. And I really do think that would damage the Switch 2 to an extent. Obviously, the Switch is well beyond what the Wii U was at that time, and it won't hurt it. To whatever degree Mario's lack of impact on Wii U affected it, it will be less felt on Switch 2. But for me personally, it would be devastating. It's like, man, I need this game to hit. I need it to be really good.
I didn't realize you were a Mario fan, Andre.
I know! How would you ever guess?
I couldn't tell at all.
But yeah, so what would be the concerning feature or gameplay? Was it something like Tom was saying, where he asked like his nephews and they're like, oh, we play Minecraft, so maybe they kind of take it into a building mechanic direction? Like, what is the fear that it just doesn't hit for you?
I mean, it's hard to say, because Nintendo's usually been fairly on point. It really is the 3D Land and 3D World games that like really tripped me up for a bit, because those just felt like 2D games in a 3D space. And Mario's 2D games, in my opinion, haven't even been that great either. I think they've long been surpassed by Donkey Kong. Ever since Donkey Country came out, 2D Mario, well, they didn't make 2D Marios for forever until, more recently with New Super Mario Bros. And Mario Wonder. But even that didn't hit on anywhere near the same level as the good 3D ones for me. So my fear is just that, like, it's not ambitious enough, I suppose. Like, whether it's more constrained and less open than the other 3D Marios, or most of them, rather than 3D World and 3D Land, or it's just doesn't do much that's new or exciting, I think, like, having a world map would probably be a little underwhelming at this point, even though Galaxy 2 and Odyssey did to a degree. I think, even something as simple as that would maybe could be part of it being underwhelming. It alone wouldn't make or break the game. Galaxy 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, but that's just a quick example, like something that could contribute to a greater feeling of it not delivering. Actually, here's another idea. If it is completely built around multiplayer, even though I talked about co-op in a recent Mario discussion I had, which I think could be fun, I don't want it to be built entirely around that in mind. But I think that does affect how these games are built and how they feel, how the level designs come together. And I really want that, like, that tight feeling that Mario usually has, where it's been designed with the idea of only, a single player largely in mind. Whereas if you have 4, well, then it becomes like, giant platforms and more spacious. The camera's zoomed out, by a mile or whatever. And that's things I don't want. I want to feel more intimate,
Yeah, and to go back to your point about having like the world maps, like the hub worlds make Mario games. That's one of the key things, just running around and finding all these secrets. When you have just the world map or whatever, that's more in line with the 2D games. Like when I think the 2D games, I'm like, okay, I'm just going up here, going here, picking a level, and then I'm in. But yeah, when I'm running around Delfino or running around maybe on the Odyssey, and then I land, and then I'm in the world, like that is just a blast to do.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, just needs like huge open environments that, or natural landscapes that are built, not just like a collection of blocks that we could put together in a Mario Maker game. Basically,
man, that's such a good point. That really is part of it. Like the 3D Land, 3D World, and a lot of the 2D games, they feel inorganic. It does feel like after Mario Maker kind of like exposed this. I love Mario Maker. Do not get me wrong. That game's amazing. But it kind of really just like laid it all out there. It's like, yeah, these levels are like tiles dropped in, or 3D blocks dropped in.
No, I like those points that you guys made. It's like when you go back to 3D Land or 3D Land and 3D World. Like I don't want the level to be like something that I can come up with in my idea, right? Like I want it to be something that I'm like, whoa, I'd never thought about that before. Okay, well that makes sense there. That makes sense there. Like you guys are saying, it's organic. It feels natural.
Right. Yeah. All right, Nick. Do you have any other hopes or fears?
Oh, I do. Here's a fair one. Nintendo overcomplicates the process of upgrading your Switch 1 game to a Switch 2 edition game. I hope this is pretty streamlined. I hope it's straightforward. Like when you do it for PS4 to PS5 games, you pop it into your PS5 and then you have to pay like a fee. Maybe it's $10 or something like that. But I hope they don't overcomplicate it with updates. I hope the upgrading, if there is an upgrading fee, I hope it's straightforward. And I hope there's some sort of compatibility with Switch 1 controllers maybe, because if you're on PS5 and you're playing a PS5 game, even though you can use the PS4 controller like in menus and in PS4 games on the PS5, you can't use it on a PS5 game. And they're nearly identical. It has the touchpad, it has all the same buttons. So I'm just like, please, again, Nintendo, make it as straightforward for us as possible.
1000%. That is a great one. If we have to buy 4 more freaking Pro controllers, I'll do it. I'm gonna be upset about it though, and Nintendo knows this. That's why it's a great fear. Like Nintendo knows we're all suckers. We'll all buy all the controllers we need, even though it'll largely be the same as the current Pro controllers. I imagine. We already know from the Joy-Cons it almost has to be that way, minus the mouse feature. And even more, it'd be even better if I can use or not even better. It'd be good as well if I can use a Switch 2 Pro controller on my Switch 1. If I can just connect it wirelessly.
Probably you can't go backwards, but hopefully at least we can go forwards.
Yeah.
I'll say I won't buy Joy-Cons until we know they're good. Until they're like, this has Hall effect sticks. I'm like, okay. Whew. Like if not, I'm just like sticking to one pair until I find
until they die.
Yeah, until they die. With the GameCube controller possibly coming for like NSO, hopefully we can use Wavebirds and stuff too. Like I do. That's where I'll be the sucker and buy like 4 GameCube controllers for Smash if that happens.
I've got good news for you, Tom, because that, there was a patent of what appears to be or could be a GameCube controller on NSO, and it is wireless like all the other NSO controllers, meaning it will be the best GameCube controller yet, because it has a shape of original GameCube controller with the wireless of the Wavebird, but with the rumble and not the awkward battery pack hanging off the back. So it'll be the best thing ever, Tom.
No, at least it's better. Like I can kind of live with it that it's better buying 4 of them, probably for like the price of more than N64.
Especially if we can just use those in every game.
Yeah.
I don't care about the mouse anymore. Just let me use the GameCube controller and everything.
That's like the Wavebird is also a mouse. It's like, oh man, Wavebird Pro.
All right, Tom. Do you have any other? Was that a fear of yours? Sorry, I lost track.
That was mine. I went over.
That was Nick. Okay, Tom. Do you have any other hopes or fears?
Yeah, I'll do a quick one. So, My hope is that Sakurai is working on a new game, and we'll get to see it during this direct.
Yes.
But my fear is that this will be a Fire Emblem fighting game. Now, why would I say this? Am I joking that this is just like Smash Brothers with all its Fire Emblem fighters? Like, no, hear me out. Like, actually, like we come to expect that. Maybe Sakurai gets a chance to helm a Fire Emblem game while they're doing that, because he obviously likes the series. Or
half the rosters, yeah.
Yeah, the roster. Or just make a pure Fire Emblem fighter. You know, why not? You could do something like that. Maybe there's dating. You create alliances for 2-on-2 battles. But then, like for me, I would have to get used to the Fire Emblem series. I'd have to be playing it more at that point, if that happened. Which, like, that goes to show how good of a creator Sakurai is. Like, he can do whatever he wants, and I will fling those blocks into space on a DS. But no, that was a great game. It's just like it's a worry though with. Like, we do want him to do something else. We don't want him to just work on Smash Bros. Forever.
Will it suck, right? Like, that's the fear.
Yeah, will it be like...
something that doesn't appeal to you, rather. Yeah.
Something that appeals to me. That's what I hope. And I guess you can't get it all. Like, you can't have something new and without some risk there. That's just kind of like my fear of what's going to happen.
Yeah, and Tom, you bring up like a 2D Fire Emblem, or maybe you didn't even say 2D, but like a traditional Fire Emblem fighting game. I would be on board with that. Like, I am kind of sick of Fire Emblem at this point, but I've been playing like the spin-offs, like the Warrior Fire Emblem games, and I enjoy those so much more than like the traditional ones now. So if Sakurai is leading the helm of a fighting game that is Fire Emblem, what I picture in my mind is kind of like Soul Calibur. Like, it's a 3D fighter. Everyone has a bunch of different weapons. That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this would be perfect if you reskin and work with Bandai Namco, which he's done in the past with Smash, and they made Soul Calibur. So like, if you make it into a Fire Emblem game, that's the fit.
I imagine Tom like waking up like in a cold sweat every night, like Fire Emblem fighting game is coming. Oh man.
No, that's some pretty intelligent systems there that Nick has suggested. So
yeah, I think so. I actually would check that out probably. All right, if we don't have any other hopes and fears, I have one more to get to. All right, this is gonna be I don't know, a tough one. I think.
Are we gonna have to sit down for this? Is this getting serious here?
No, it's not getting serious. It's here. Okay, obviously it's a broad hope and fear. My broad hope is that the Switch 2 kills it on every level for the next, however many years it lives for, right? I mean, not every. I don't expect it to be perfect all the time, right? But I do hope that we get a continued stream of good, if not innovative games, right? That's what I really want. My fear is that it's going to be a continuation of the last 3 to 4 years on Switch 1, where Nintendo's not made a single game, a single 4-paid game since Bowser's Fury that I truly loved. There's been plenty of games I had some fun with, but none of them I've loved. I feel like the latter half of the Switch generation, for me personally, was so different to the first half of the generation, where there was a lot of games I was really enjoying and playing, and they were innovative and fun, and even including the more off-the-wall stuff like Ring Fit and Labo stuff. That was cool. That was interesting and different. And whereas the last few years, it's either been a lot of remasters, remakes, sequels to games that don't particularly appeal to me myself, or didn't do that much new or different, and to the point where I actually stopped playing my Switch for a while.
Yeah, I hope we definitely don't get things that, especially on Wednesday, it's going to be telling that we see a game and it's just like, oh, this is just more Mario Kart, or this is just more like F-Zero. I really hope they think outside of the box and they don't play it safe, like you said, or reach out to your gaming tastes that they haven't been doing for the past 4 years or so. Again, we're going to see more about that on Wednesday.
Right.
But yeah, what do you think, Tom?
I hope that the last year or two, it's just really been Nintendo trying to appeal to fans too, but just bring in a new, younger audience, like people who might have been born when the Switch came out, for instance. And maybe not for us, while working behind the scenes on big titles that all Nintendo fans, but mostly me, can be interested in.
That's what matters at the end of the day, right? Yeah. So we'll see. We'll know in just a couple days whether our hopes and fears are were they warranted or not? You know, I mean, not that they weren't warranted, but whether they came true or not. You know, here's hoping for the best. I would love for all of our fears to just go away and all of our hopes to be realized. Or at least some kind of middle ground between the two. And I'm excited. I'm so excited to see what they have on April 2nd. Because beyond the hardware, which is, you know, beyond the mouse feature, it's just a better Switch. I'm really excited to see what they've been cooking software-wise. And maybe they will be complete game changers. Maybe there'll be extensions of what we've already played. I don't know. I'm excited to find out, though. So, yeah. Any other thoughts?
Next Mario game is like my most anticipated game. So I hope they truly deliver again. That's Nintendo in Tokyo there. They've certainly done it several times in the past, so I have a lot of faith in them.
Yeah, Mario might be my most anticipated game. Besides, like I said before, I beat it into the ground like a Star Fox, but we don't even know if that exists. But yeah, a Mario game, I hope it's a home run.
I have a new... Oh, go ahead, Tom.
I would say, Nick, you have a pretty good chance, because it seems like every time there's like an indie game coming out that's the equivalent of it, then like Nintendo announces the real thing coming out. So there's a chance.
Speaking of indie games, my hope is that we'll be playing Carpoon on Switch 2. Without being at the Switch 2 event, Tom, the game you're making. So Tom, tell people where everyone can follow you at, and including find out more about your exciting indie game being Carpoon.
Well, you can find Carpoon on Steam right now. I'm a businessman. Maybe I would have it on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. Yeah, that's the best place. Similar to one of my fake worries that I was going to say. I'm worried Nintendo is not following GameXplain on Blue Sky.
I don't think Nintendo's even on Blue Sky.
They should be. They gotta park that domain or whatever.
They're on Nintendo today.
Yeah, that's right. That's where you find them now. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, this wishlist Carpoon on Steam Fiesta. That's the best, most appreciative thing for me. Thank you.
All right. How about you, Nick? Where can people follow you at?
Yeah, you can follow me on my personal channel, which is Steftendo. That's STEFTENDO. I'm only less than 100 subscribers away from 6,000 subscribers. So if
awesome.
people can help follow me get to there within like the next month or so, that would be super appreciated.
Yeah. Go follow Nick right now. Let's get him to 6,000 subscribers and beyond, hopefully. So, all right.
He's like, no, I'm done. He's like, I'm
retired. And after that, yeah, I'm done. I'm
actually unsubscribing. Sorry. Well, on that note, everyone, thank you so much for watching our hopes and concerns. Again, we'll see whether any of them are valid or not very soon, as we continue our countdown to the final day, being tomorrow. What will it be? I don't know if I even know at this point, so we're going to find out. It should be a lot of fun. I can't wait to talk about our final hopes and our final expectations for the Switch 2 event April 2nd on the final day countdown. So, thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you later. Bye.